The victory of Benito Juárez in the Civil War of 1858 to 1861, known as the War of Reforma, made the new Mexican government sought a powerful enemy, by refusing to pay the debts that the conservatives, the losing side, had contracted with France, Spain, and the British Empire. After a series of negotiations, Spain and Great Britain re-embarked their troops and abandoned the option of intervention. But the Second French Empire went ahead. Napoleon III, without a doubt, sought to show France again as a hegemonic power that could arbitrate international affairs. But above all, Napoleon sensed that the northern country, the United States, could become a world power, and he suspected that they wanted to seize Mexico and its natural wealth. The idea of intervention was not only born at the initiative of Napoleon III. Before the landing of the French imperial troops, the conservatives who had been defeated in the finalized War of Reforma, had contacted numerous courts in Europe, to offer the country to a European prince, and their requests were well received by the French emperor. Apart from financial issues, France embarked on this undertaking for two other not insignificant reasons. The first, the French president wanted to engage his country in a civilizing mission, something typical of imperialism and colonialism, which was beginning to emerge at the time. The second, the United States was immersed in its own civil war, and the time was right to establish a French protectorate in Mexico, and eliminate the growing North American influence. The original French expedition had 2,400 soldiers, compared to the 800 men that the British had deployed, and 5,600 Spaniards under the command of Juan Prim. With the withdrawal of these two powers, France decided to take over the Mexican capital. The army, reinforced with troops from Europe, was placed under the command of General Charles Ferdinand Latreille, better known as the Count of Lorenzes. With the reinforcements coming from the metropolis, the French forces would reach approximately 6,000 troops, a mixture of colonial and metropolitan units, among which there were formations that had recently fought in the Crimea and Italy, so they had great experience. Count Lorenzes and Napoleon III thought that this expeditionary army would be enough to break the new Mexican government, and it was not unreasonable, since the social and above all, economic conditions of the country predicted a rapid advance towards the capital, the City of Mexico, from its base in Veracruz. And they were not without allies, as members of the ousted Conservative Party formed a parallel government that supported the intervention. However, the Mexican army responded quickly, to try to stop the French aggression, whose advance, after some skirmishes and previous combats, was stopped in the town of Puebla, in a battle that would be recorded in blood and fire, in the history of Mexico. There they clashed on May 5, 1862, the Mexican army of General Ignacio Zaragoza, and the French army of General Latreille. Zaragoza arranged his troops on the battlefield, leaving the initiative to the enemy, and remained in a defensive posture. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and experienced by the French. In addition, the French officers, especially their chief, despised the military value of the Mexicans, whom they described as simple bandits. In Puebla, 4,000 Mexican soldiers defeated 6,000 French, a feat that encouraged the hopes of the Republican government to win the war. Count Lorenzes' forces suffered 117 dead and 305 wounded, while the Mexican Republican units had 83 dead and 232 wounded. The Battle of Puebla stopped the French advance through the interior of Mexico. The blow had not been great, but it was enough to rethink the strategy, which France would lead in the following years. Napoleon III responded to the defeat by sending 28,000 men, under the command of General Fourie. The outrage that a troop, poorly equipped and bad organized, had inflicted a defeat, which many considered the best army in the world, could not go unpunished.